Hi, welcome back to Ragtag Resilience. We know it's been a long time since we've made a garden tour video, and it's long overdue. And we're so excited to share with you what's been growing. We're past midsummer, we're early July. Our summer crops are just really starting to pump out some produce. We've already harvested all of our spring things. But I just want to let you know that we haven't shared because we've been so busy doing, but that is a huge thing that's on our hearts and minds, of just being able to pass on things that we've learned from our mistakes and what we've done well. So our desire to really be permaculture teachers isn't just to regurgitate information, but to inspire you to grow things in your context, your way, while utilizing a lot of the wisdom and experiences of others so that you can not get a shortcut, but maybe lessen your losses a little. As we know, as gardeners, we've got to learn. So the reason we don't have as much content is because we're doing CSA and farmers market, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to share it with you. So follow along and just know where our heads and hearts are at, is to be able to do things in real time and share them authentically with you as gardeners first. Okay, so you ready to see what we got? All right, so we've got okra just planted. We did have beets in here. They were amazing. The kale, this was full of kale. We harvested all of the flat leaf kale, made kale chips for the market, cheesy vegan kale chips, and just so much came out of that. We are leaving the curly kale. We want to see if we can get it through the summer enough and then have a head start in the fall when it really starts producing again. So the fact that we were able to take off all the damage and the high heat and humidity that we have in zone 6B here in Oklahoma, if we can just keep it going, that's saying a lot. Because what happens is it gets weak because it's out of season, and then it gets a lot more pest pressure and little things, and then they just fall apart. And so if we keep it clean and keep the pests off, that's our best bet. This is kind of like our extras, our extra row, where we've got extra eggplants. I seeded some diva cucumbers here after we had harvested all of our lettuces that were in this row first, and they just did not germinate. That's what happens when the temperatures go up. Germination goes down. So I'll be starting some stuff to transplant later. But this lettuce, as far as it didn't germinate everywhere, but we'll transplant some others in, is supposed to be a very summer heat tolerant variety. So and it's gonna form these nice butterheads. So we're really excited for that. These are the Chinese long noodle beans that are coming along. We've had tons of Swiss chard. We actually took out a bunch, and we're just starting to have a lot of pest pressure now that it's heating up. But in the spring, it was amazing. Biggest Swiss chard I've ever seen. This is the zucchini. I don't even know how to say it right, but it's a zucchini. You know what I'm talking about. Rampanade. You know, that one that makes amazing long, look at them. But I need to come in and trim things up so we can walk through more easily. But this is a great variety because of it's got hollow stems. So when the vine borers come at it, so this is where they start out as babies, just that little. And they're so prolific. But they're a vining squash, summer squash. Obviously go crazy. Squash bugs, they do get those too, but I feel like the plant outpaces the pests, so it's not too big of a deal. We're not using any sprays on it or anything, and it can handle the humidity as well. Oh, here's a pest. So These are those Japanese green beetles, pains in the butts. I mostly don't like them because they attack our fruit trees, our peach. They go right in the peaches, man, and take bites out of them and ruin them. But they're not doing anything to the squash. They like to hide in here. It's the worst. They think it's their house. Anyways, so they just like taking shelter here, even though they're not actually messing with that crop. They're affecting other ones. All right, come look in this one too. So we have 4 trellises. 2 of them were originally planted with the zucchini kind, and it's neat because they taste like a zucchini, cook like a zucchini, but they're not as watery. And when you leave them on the vine, they will actually harden off like a winter squash, and then you can store them, and then use it more like a butternut. So on the other side, the other 2 trellises, we did Tahitian melon, another amazing vine borer, squash bug resistant. So they're just like everywhere. So far I think people have really enjoyed them. So on this side is where the Tahitian melon is planted. And those are the ones that are fatter and that start to kind of tan up, you know, when they harden off. Or not harden off, but not like curing, but you know, like that one there. See how it's starting to get kind of yellow? I can get in still. Just enough. Okay, so this is the Tahitian melon. I don't know if can you see that? See, it's just starting to like get its yellow, thick skin. I mean, so it's like a butternut. Well, it tastes and I use it like a butternut, but it's in the melon family. And they're huge, so just think of every flower, you're getting twice as much. And then here's another, look at that. So, pretty cool. Yeah, I love it. It's so fun. I always feel like these are so magical too. Oh, it is a cutie. Growing carrots in the summer. These are they the cosmic purple? I think one of them, one of those Baker Creek heirloom seed purple ones. We are going to be adding these to the CSA boxes tonight for our member pickup tomorrow. Ooh. Oh look, they're just so pretty and cute. Oh, I love it. Okay, let's see if there's any other varieties. Yeah. So you got to keep in mind that these beds, yeah, because this had garlic in it. So these 3 beds had garlic in them over the winter. They were started last summer. They had okra last summer, garlic in the winter. This was established. These were done this spring. This is a completely new bed. So what it's had in it is nothing. Like, oh yeah. So we had a row of radishes before we got these planted. But I don't think this is bad for carrots in the heat. I'm really excited. So we'll get more of those for our CSA later. Aren't they pretty? I think they're the purple cosmic ones. Okay, so we have more French breakfast radishes interplanted between these Roma tomatoes. We have really struggled with some kind of fungal impact on our Roma tomatoes, but they are bouncing back. And then my husband sprayed it with an organic copper fungicide. So he really does the planting, the watering, and any like pest control. He kind of takes ownership of that. I'm like big picture, let me study and research and go ooh la la, and love designing and love thinking of the big picture of where to plug things in. He is the project manager of our garden and business. making sure that things are on time, in the right spot, that succession's happening so that we don't have any blanks and all of that. So the Romas are coming back, but they are a determinate tomato. So as soon as these are out, we're gonna probably be putting in another row of carrots or beets, and we're just gonna keep on planting. Here we have tons of different eggplants. So the three kinds we did was the rotunda, the Chinese string, and the Antigua, which has always been a favorite. So the plants are so healthy and doing so good, you really got to get in here. Oh yeah. This is really the ideal size for those. Oh, this mama. This is the Chinese string eggplant. Look at that mama jama. I love these because I feel like they're single serving. You know, sometimes you get the big eggplant and you're like, am I gonna make a big thing? But you can throw one of these in a little stir fry, or, you know, saute it up and then add eggs, or it's just so much easier to do a smaller portion without having to worry about like planning a big meal. Yeah, and because there's not as much skin, it's not as bitter either. So if you are not an eggplant fan, I would just encourage you to try different varieties because they really do vary and they're super versatile, way more than a lot of times you think. This is the Antigua, and it's really nice. I have my friend, actually, Kira from Homestead Dreaming, she hated eggplants, and then she tried one of ours, and she now grows this all the time because she fell in love with it. One of my favorite recipes to do when I've got a bunch, or even a little, is baba ganache. Look at that. I don't know what it is about this stripiness that's just like, yeah. So this is ideal. It will start to whiten the older it gets, so yeah. I forget how to say the name. I know rotunda is in it, and that it was named, they're from North Africa originally, but they were brought back to Rome during the Crusades, and so became a lot more commonly used there as this heirloom. They kind of have their own little stripiness. They get soft as they are ripened and ready to use. But they were named rotunda, obviously for their roundness. These are these are awesome roasted. But what's really neat is you could do like a medley and have different colors and stuff. But this is definitely more on the Italian, Chinese, Antigua's Italian too. Let me see if I can get a couple more. Just give them a little squeeze. Oh yeah. Isn't that great? Really beautiful. This is our pepper bed. In here is we have shishitos, our banana peppers, all our jalapenos, and then my favorite, the Brazilian boquinho for bird's beak peppers. And they're ripe when they get like this. Isn't that awesome? We had a chef over the other day to come check out the garden, and he took one bite of this and he was like, oh, there's citrus right away on the tip. And I was just so impressed by his palate and that he saw the potential of using these. So anyways, they're just starting to come on. So we've just had our first few and we sold them to him. And then over here are our Nepal peppers, but they're really common in Nepal. They get big and green and then they turn red. And we've actually used them both red and green to make hot sauce. That has just been killer. So there actually isn't any fruit on yet, I don't think. They're just starting to flower. So here we have basil and parsley. a few more peppers that are kind of overflow, and then we need to sow some more stuff there. Cosmos, or this is, my husband calls this a marigold. I call it a Cosmo. I'm not sure. Whatever. You can tell the difference between tallow, our like rental property, and our property is ours gets neglected. And this one we spend all of our extra energy on. But we always want to make sure that this is planted with lots of flowers, so it's both curb appeal and attractive, but also for all of our pollinator friends. The lavender that we planted here when we first created this very first no-dig bed here is doing amazing. Of course, if you watched any of our permaculture property makeover videos, that we just laid cardboard and mulch to cover the bare grass, and this is what we created from that. So we have those no-dig Charles Dowding kind of beds. We used frames to kind of plan it out in between, and then moved it like a puzzle. You know, we just cookie cuttered each no-dig bed, mulch, compost, to create this. And we're gonna keep going with this barrier of flowers that will just in every season have something in bloom to bring in all the wonderful beneficial insects. We made lavender creme brulee this last weekend for farmers market using this lavender. It reminds me so much of the Pacific Northwest, where you see mounds of lavender in parking lots that look like they should be in fields in France or something. They're so lovely. And that's what we want to create here, is just this, where am I in the world kind of connection with nature right here in Bartlesville. So this is the back of Tallow. This is where you get to be when you stay at our Airbnb. So this is the hugelkultur bed that we planted. The goal is that this is like a food forest. It is a food forest, but it's really doing it in a way that is low maintenance, growing, creating this ecosystem that really just brings nature right to the door. All the little bees in there on that Thai basil. We have sunchokes and purple sweet potatoes growing in the back. These are apple trees here in this fruit tree guild. There's rhubarb, ground cherries. Oh my gosh. So we put ground cherries everywhere. They're just kind of everywhere. And they're so cool. So they're also called husk cherries. Here. Oh, look at it. It's just like loaded under here. So the issue is you got to pick them up off the ground. Let's see. You kind of got to, ooh, that's probably a good one. You got to kind of test them because, whew. All right, let's see which one of these are good. Well, this one's a little green, but it fell. Anyways, so it's in the cherry family. It's kind of like a tomatillo in the sense of it has its own little candy wrapper, but it's sweet. So a friend said at farmer's market when she tasted it for the first time that it was like a tomato and a blackberry had a baby, which I thought was just a really interesting description. But the greener they are, the more sour. And that's why you want them to ripen on the plant and fall on the ground. So you just peel back. This one's really ripe. That it's just such a unique flavor, like nothing else I've ever had. They are not super tart like a gooseberry or anything like that. They're not as acidic as a tomato. They have their own unique flavor. And I cannot wait to make a pie with them. Oh, that one was just like perfect. I gotta eat another one. Okay, I know there's a lot to tell you. The perfect chore for the kids to come out and pick these up. So we have, it's just littered between medicinal herbs, culinary herbs, pollinator flowers, cut flowers for florists, and lots of perennials and annual vegetables. We have our fig tree buried here, dill, sage, Watermelon, more ground cherries. So just like a forest is a living ecosystem that's working together with lots of different species and plants and life, that's when you're planting a food forest garden. It's the same thing. You're just letting nature do its thing, and they love being together. Plants love being together, and that's why it's so awesome to get them in the ground. The watermelons, those are the sweet, the baby bush baby, sweet ones. Tomatoes, calendula, rue, lots of sunflowers and amaranth, some volunteer tomatoes we couldn't handle moving. That's one thing about when we forget a lot, because we generally trellis our tomatoes to control them, is that they actually just want to spread out everywhere. And we're fine with that in a food forest setting. Okay, this is the Kajari melon. There's also some nasturtiums in here that it kind of took over, but these are just everywhere buried in here. So it's that Kajari melon. So really musky Indian melon. So good though. Oh, I just really love it. Man, so in March, we just transplanted what we had available and threw out seeds. We were able to plug in a few plants, but really it was minimal. We transplanted as many things as we could just to save a buck. We got echinacea, more strawberries, some volunteer sunchokes, the Jerusalem artichokes. Someone was telling me how to spot them, and I told her it was really hard until they start flowering, and then they look like a mini sunflower. Because right now they're just green stalks, and that's the truth. Got lots of Malabar spinach, volunteer butternut. Yeah, so these squashes are ones that we were hoping, so we need to harvest these potatoes. This was kind of like, what are we going to do with this space? We ran out of mulch, we ran out of time in March, we needed to get this up and running. We got these jujube and persimmon fruit trees planted, and we needed to cover the ground because the ground wants to be covered and we don't want to be weeding. So we planted potatoes. We're kind of letting the squash grow over them. We're going to come out and see what we get. And regardless, it's really not a loss. The mulberry trees that if you saw our first video when we bought this property, it was crazy. It was like a jungle like this, the entire backyard. So one reason we covered it with mulch, cardboard and mulch, after we cut down the trees, the little mini mulberry paper trees, was because there were so many roots. We couldn't have dug in the ground if we wanted to, so we're building up the soil. So rather than all the effort of going down, we're just building up and creating more soil, and it's awesome. All right, amaranth. This is coxcomb starting to come up. So, and we are going to be adding some more fruit trees to this area, just so it's just really multi-leveled, lots of produce. This cherry tree gives about 12 little cherries that were scrumptious this spring. Not bad for being transplanted. This is one of our apples, and it has a watermelon vining on it. It's not producing this year. It's a dwarf apple tree. It just got planted in March, so it didn't produce anything. It's not gonna, but it does work as a trellis, a little baby watermelon. Okay, these are the asparagus row here, first year, so of course we're letting it leaf out so we can build strong roots and hopefully have something to harvest next year. This is that Virginia creeper we're gonna constantly just have to deal with, you know? So we have things to deal with all the time too. Those sunchokes, sweet potatoes on the ground, and then we also have bits, the rhubarb. Rhubarb is exceptionally hard to grow in our area because it's so hot in the summer. We have very cold winters, which it can handle, but it's the heat of the summer that's really difficult. But we have two plants that are holding on, and look, there's even new growth, even though it's getting charred because of the heat and the hot. I mean, we've had 107-degree temperatures. Like, it is not easy Oklahoma summers, but it is holding on. And we promised ourselves we would not harvest this unless something automatically broke off on its own. But we weren't going to harvest them because we really wanted them to get established. Fingers crossed that it makes it through the summer, through the winter, and that next year we can start eating some fresh rhubarb. Oh, these are Chickasaw sand plums. So these were just little starts, like crazy small. So they're in there. That is all set up. This winter project will be putting in a clawfoot tub in this area that we have painted, and it's white and red just like the house. So with hot and cold water, so that's why that's there. And it will be a beautiful outdoor experience, and then we'll be adding a sauna too, Lord willing. Oh, sorry. So chocolate mint that we transplanted, Malabar spinach, and then horseradish. So we have some Diva cucumbers. Those are our favorite. They're like those very small little slicers that you see in this grocery store. I don't know if they're the same kind, but that's what they remind me of, and that's what they taste like, but better because they're fresh. Rosemary, tarragon, going crazy. Food forest, 5th year, we have got grapes. So it's going nuts. Yep. But this is a lot of the echinacea that I harvest for our tea making. This is all just mostly perennial stuff. I mean, amaranth is annual, but it's reseeded itself. So we didn't plant it here. It just keeps coming back, and then we transplant it other places. Such an amazing, like, ancient gluten-free grain. Yeah, love this fennel. Came back. The asparagus this spring was really prolific. We've got our fig in the back here and goji berries. We always are using that marginal space. The blueberries were great this year. I harvested tons. We're at the tail end. I kind of leave the rest for the birds. We don't net them. We really, I just come out and pick when they're ready because we don't want birds to get stuck in them, or even worse, a really mad snake or something. So we don't do any of that. Lots of tomatoes. So like I said, we've really been struggling with, we just got hit really early with some kind of fungus, but the plants seem to be continuing to produce regardless, and we're just grateful for that. I always love these yellow ones. This is our first year doing the string method, the single stem on a line, and trellising them up. We have planted them super dense in the past and decided to make sure that we weren't overstressing things for space and just really honoring it. So seeing like what it looks like. So this is all recycled material. Real fancy, I know. Recycled stuff to make this. So you don't have to have a big hoop greenhouse or a lot of money to do this single stem string trellis that is so helpful for plants, super productive. So these being indeterminate, they're just gonna keep on growing. They'll flop over. I'm just gonna pick some. Oh, the raccoon's back. Yeah, so we're harvesting our peaches a little bit kind of every day as they're ripe. Because if we don't, it's a little raccoon that likes to come and steal them. So this will go to the chickens. But, oh, there's a lot of bugs. Yep. So we have 2 trees. This is an earlier variety. That's a later one. Obviously there's a huge size difference. So it's kind of nice to get this succession of peaches rather than all at once. It allows us to spread them out and really enjoy them. I want to pick one squash. There was a really long one in there.